Welcome to TroyandSteph.com. Thanks so much, guys, for checking in with us.
Checking us out, yeah.
Checking us out. I don't know if that's the right way, but what we want to do just real quickly is just answer a few of the questions that you guys text into us. This weekend we talked about parenting. You were going to help me.
I was, but I got sick. Had a rough week. Sick. Still a little bit sick.
Coughing, keeping us all up in the Brownlee household.
I know.
We still love her. But anyway, so we'll just go through a few of these questions. You know, we can't answer them all, of course, but we'll jump in. Here's the first one: is how can you study? Basically when there's kids in the house all the time. And I think, and you jump in to tell me if I'm wrong, but you know, life looks different depending on what stage your kids are at.
Yeah.
And you know, when our kids were younger, your study time or your time with God looked different.
Right.
And I remember when you were a teacher and you were have all that prep, you know, that I would have to take the kids, and then, you know, when I was studying for the weekend, you would take the kids, and
right.
So it really has to be a team approach. And if you're a single mom or dad, I think you got to recruit people on your team.
That can help you out, yeah.
Because parenting is a team sport. You know, even if you're a single mom or a single dad, don't settle for just being a single mom or single dad. You know, recruit friends to that team, recruit grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, you know, whoever, so that you can raise that child and still have a life, and everybody can enjoy the journey.
Right, very good.
What do you do when parents disagree on type of discipline?
Yeah, you know, I know in our 16, almost 17 years of parenting, there's been many, many times where Troy and I have, we've disagreed on different things with parenting, and that's where we've had to sit down and kind of talk through those things and come to an agreement, you know, and not, you know, and hear each other out, not sit down and get mad at each other and, you know, we should do it this way or this way, but just hear each other out on it, and then come to some kind of conclusion and pray about it together as husband and wife. That God would just give us wisdom about how to handle that.
Yeah, I think if we try to do it outside of the kids' listening ears, you know, not disagree inside the kids' listening ears. The other thing is if we're disagreeing about, like say, discipline for this offense or whatever, then we'll go and we'll talk about it. Just make sure that the conversation, you know, if there's a conversation about disagreeing and discipline philosophy, that's a different conversation, and don't have it in the context of a certain offense.
Right.
You know, get whatever you're going to do about, you know, missing curfew, get that passed, and then move on and have just the conversation about discipline philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to paddle or if
right.
you're going to ground or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, and you're right about not doing it in front of the kids, having that disagreement, because, you know, our kids are pros at, trying to put us up against each other, you know, and they'll say, well, mom said this, or, you know, dad doesn't care if I do this. So it really is important to, you know, to work through that and settle that, outside of their ears.
Or you didn't do that when Tyler did it.
Right,
or, you know.
Exactly.
How do you teach your children honor when your ex-husband teaches them the opposite?
You talked a lot about that, and I thought what you shared this weekend about honor was so good. That we're not born with, naturally having a sense of honor and respect, and how, we do have to model that for our kids, and, that they are always watching. And, I would just say in that circumstance, I would just encourage you to, you be that model for them. No matter if your spouse is or isn't, but, you set that example and model that before them, and, and pray about it, and then, pray for, for that spouse. If they're an unbeliever, pray that God would put people into his or her life that would draw them to God. And, but I just think, just don't give up on that, and don't let it be an excuse. Well, my husband or my wife is not modeling it for them, so, there's no hope. But there is. You can do that for your child. And
honor your ex-spouse. And your kids will see the contrast. Be careful not to get sucked into saying, well, don't do what your dad does.
Yeah.
Really honor that ex-spouse. And your kids will see the contrast and give you an opportunity to have a conversation about why you do what you do, not about why your husband doesn't do what, or your ex-spouse doesn't do what they're supposed to. How do you teach perseverance when you've quit a bad marriage? Again, teaching is not about perfect. I mean, I always have that in my mind, you know, in the sense that if I do this, how's it going to affect my parenting? But we all make tons of mistakes, you know, so I think you teach perseverance by sharing with your kids maybe some of the things, the consequences of not persevering,
right?
You know, or why, you know, that kind, you know, show them that side of it.
Yeah, and you know, we're all human. We're going to mess up, but you know, we can use those as teachable moments. You know that, you know, well, you know, this is an instance where I didn't persevere, and this is the consequences of it, and you know, the regret that I have as a result of it. So I think we can. You're right. Use those as teachable moments.
And our mistakes are always a strong teachable moments when they're contrasted with the rest of our life of being of persevering. Yeah, I screwed up here, and maybe I didn't persevere in this area of my life, but when you can use that as a teachable moment and then persevere in the other areas of your life, it's really, really powerful to show your kids, man, I learned some things from that.
Right.
And now I'm trying to teach them to you, but they've made a difference in my life as well. You know, I only have my kids every other weekend. Is that enough for them? You know, when I talked about being at the church, you know, again, all you can do is what you can do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I encourage your spouse, if you can, ex-spouse, to have them in church and those kind of things. But if you can't make it happen, you can't. And, but again, get as many people on your parenting team as you can. And many of us that live in South Florida don't have family here. So we have to recruit, you know, friends and that kind of thing to help us partner. And you can do the same thing in the spiritual realm. You know, if your kids can only be here twice a month because that's all that you have them, well, make sure you're here those 2 times.
Right.
You know, if you miss one, that's only once a month, and that's huge. So you got to make sure you're here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the hard part in that too is if they are only here, you know, a couple times a month, it's going to be harder for them to be connected, you know, so if they're a child, to be connected in the children's ministry, or if they're a student, to be connected in the student ministry. But I think that is very, very important, because, you know, what you said this weekend was so good about how, you know, as parents, it is our responsibility, you know, to raise our children, you know, in a godly home. But we do have the church that will come alongside and partner with us. So I think, you know, making sure that you know, they're not just coming and sitting here in the auditorium with you, but that they are connected in the children's ministry or the student ministry, and you know, so that you do have those people that are helping you in this process.
One last question. It says, I have several friends who were raised in Christian homes or Bible-thumping homes, and now they have traveled in the opposite extreme. And, you know, again, you know, it's always difficult when you're talking about examples, because I don't know the whole circumstances. I do know that kids that are raised in legalistic environments where they're unable to build their decision-making muscles, which happens a lot of times in Christian homes. You know, I said, for example, you know, our kids don't have a choice when it comes to coming to church. They're going to come to church. But there are a lot of things that we do give them decisions, you know, as far as what movies they go see, the music that they listen to. We guide them in that, but we really try to give them some authority in making decisions so they can have decision-making muscles. Most kids raised in a Christian home that just go crazy in the opposite direction sometimes are because, you know, as Christian parents, we're so afraid they're going to make bad decisions, we don't let them make any decisions.
Right.
So,
Very good.
I mean, that I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
That's
Whatever
good.
that means. All right. But anyways, thanks so much, guys, for checking us out here at TroyandSteph.com. We'd love to see you on Twitter. You can sign up at the link here on the page. Stephanie and I have both lived such exciting lives, I am sure. No, you know the whole reason we do the blog and the Twitter is simply because since the church has grown, multiple campuses, we can't do life on the back porch. And this is kind of a way for us to get to know one another. We can follow you, you can follow us, and we'll journey together. We'll see you next week. Make sure you bring somebody with you. God bless.